Good evening, everyone. Wow, I'm a little nervous that I'm going to drown soon, but very good point. So today we're talking about the edge, and we've heard some great things. So I'm going to take it into, I wanted to give you some advice tonight, and if I can impart one idea on you tonight, it's that not every edge is a cliff. A cliff is something to be avoided. A cliff is something that you fall from. A cliff is something that when you fall to the bottom, you're not going to want to be there. So you wish you had seen it coming. So every cliff has an edge. But is every edge a cliff? So what am I talking about? Let's talk about studying. Most of you are students here at Gulliver. You're all getting good grades. Some of you are going to great colleges in the fall. And let me ask you, how hard have you worked? How hard have you crammed for a test? What's the hardest you've ever studied? What's the most pressure you've put on yourself to succeed? And maybe we aren't talking about academics. Do we have any athletes in the room? How hard have you worked to beat the competition? Football players, what's the closest you've come to puking during 2-a-days? Maybe some of you have puked. The point is, I know you're all achievers. You've all worked so hard, really buckled down for something. And I'm here to tell you sorry, but you haven't worked hard yet. When you get to college, and it counts for real, I mean, it really counts for real, the stakes get higher, and then you'll really work hard. And when you get in the real world, and your friends, your colleagues, you're all trying to carve your existence in the professional world, and you're in your 20s, and you work all hours of the night and weekends to impress your boss, then you'll really work hard. And after you start your families, and now you're not just responsible for yourself, but you have to think about all these other little living creatures you've created, and you're so worried about screwing them up, which us parents do every single day, then you'll stay up all hours of the night, and again, then you'll start really working hard. And so why am I trying to scare/depress you tonight? I promise that's not what I'm going for. I'm just trying to put some perspective that things get more daunting. And when they do, when you're looking out over the edge, sometimes what waits is not certain doom. Sometimes you don't need to pull back. Sometimes you need to take a running start and jump across to whatever's on the other side. And I wouldn't tell you to take that leap of faith if I haven't taken it myself. In fact, many times. All the best things in my professional career would have gone to the edge and kept going. Today, I'm proud to say I'm the Chief Information Officer at Burger King, which means I'm responsible for all the technology for the brand. So knowing that, do you think I went to school to study computers? I have a degree in Management Information Systems or Computer Science. Do you think when I was growing up I wanted to be Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg? Well, I would have liked their bank account today. But no, I was a numbers geek. I went to the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota and got my degrees in finance and economics. I wanted to be the next Gordon Gekko. And since most of you don't know Gordon Gekko or may not have heard of him, think about Donald Trump, but with much better hair. So now you've all probably heard the "I'm not doing what I went to college to do" line by now. It's valid, but that's not my point either. My point is that I had stuck to the idea of the Gordon Gekko image of myself. And if I never strayed to the edge of what I thought I was or what I was going to be, I would never be where I am today. So just how did I become the CIO of the largest brand, one of the largest restaurant brands in the world? I have to believe hard work, determination, a little bit of luck, some passion, okay, and maybe a little smarts got me to where I'm at today. But let's go back to the beginning of my journey. No, I'm not going to go back to when I was born. We're not going to go through the whole story. But we'll start. My family, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, and my parents owned a restaurant and a bar. So I had restaurants in my blood. And shortly after college, I got the opportunity to go work for Planet Hollywood. For those of you that don't know Planet Hollywood, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger were all the faces of the restaurants. And I was there during the heyday. I was there during the exciting time, and it was a wild ride. But how did I get there? So I remember one day I'm reading the newspaper, yeah, physical newspaper, the want ads, and I saw an ad. They were hiring operations managers. So I sent in my resume, no monster.com yet, went through the postal service. A few weeks later, I got called for an interview, and I remember driving home after that interview thinking, I'm never getting this job. No way am I qualified. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Manhattan to train at the store, one of the busiest restaurants in the world at the time. I was scared to death. Here was a small town girl from Minnesota going to Manhattan. I had no idea what to expect. So fast forward 6 weeks later, and I'm back at the Mall of America opening up the restaurant, the Planet Hollywood, as a restaurant manager. And during a restaurant, those of you not familiar, during restaurant openings, every manager gets assigned a special task. And so mine was to work with the corporate team to install the point of sale. I had no idea what I was doing. Remember, my papers in college were done on typewriters. My only introduction to computers was some sort of intro to computers course in one of my first years of college. And I was completely unqualified for what they had me do. But I was up for the challenge. So I dove into that product, and at the time, sure looked like a cliff to me, but it wasn't. It was an edge, one that I needed to leap across, because then on the other side was a start to a career that would take me places that you can never imagine. So back to Planet Hollywood. So apparently I had a knack for POS, and my IT career started. A few months after, I was in Maui, opening up the Planet Hollywood, and they needed me to set up the POS system. My first solo gig. I was completely unqualified to be there. So prior to the actual restaurant openings, there's what they call classroom training. So all the staff comes in for a week. Again, my first time. So I go early and have all the equipment sent to my hotel room to set up. So here I am at this luxury 5-star resort on Maui Beach in my room with 50 boxes of computers, cables, miles and miles and miles of cables, printers, all sorts of hardware, and I start to unbox it and set it up. So now I'm looking at this room, and it's stuff everywhere. Piles. I had so much styrofoam I could have built a boat back to the mainland in case I needed it as a way out. So I called the maid, I called the front desk to get the stuff picked up, and the maid shows up with this tiny little plastic bag to pick up my debris, and she looks behind me and she sees stacks and stacks of cardboard behind me, and needless to say, the look on her face was priceless, and they had to bring a dumpster. I don't think I was ever allowed back in that hotel again. And in keeping with my MO, I took the gig and had no idea what I was doing. Remember, this was the pre-Google days. I couldn't find a YouTube video to tell me how to set everything up. There was no internet, for that matter. And so the only way to learn was through my notes, manuals, my Network for Dummies book that I bought, and maybe a lot of, or a little bit or a lot of trial and error. So I'm looking through all these instruction manuals and I get everything set up bit by bit, and the restaurant goes to open up. And so I'm so proud because I got everything set up for the first night. Lines of people out the door, people waiting to get in. It's a practice party, so everybody's a little bit more patient than normal. And I'm standing around making sure everything's going all right, and somebody runs a report. And all of a sudden, chaos in the kitchen. And so I go running down the stairs, running to the kitchen. Everything magically started working again. Must have been human error. Must have been a fluke. Certainly wasn't me. It all started working again. So we just went on with the night. Well, later on that night, it happened again. Well, it wasn't a coincidence. Houston, I had a problem. So for the next days, I spent on the phone trying to figure out what was wrong. And when I say days, I mean days. No cell phone, so I'm tied to a landline next to a computer with a guy on the phone trying to help me figure out what was going on. He had just the patience of a saint. But after 2 days, we figured out that I set up the network wrong between the PCs. Something about IP conflicts, He was talking a different language. In case I didn't make it clear earlier, I was completely unqualified to do what I was doing. But I had to figure it out. I had no other option. So we did. So I jumped back in, and we just figured it out, and that's what we did. And it was painful, and it was hard, and it was a little humiliating, especially after 48 hours and no sleep, and being woken by a very nice man on the trolley. Apparently, I had fallen asleep, and he couldn't wake me up, so he thought he was being kind and let me sleep for about 4 or 5 round trips between the hotel and downtown Lahaina. If any of you have been to Maui. Thank God there's no cell phones at the time, because I'm sure I would have showed up on some YouTube video somewhere. But I guess his shift was over, so he had enough of me sleeping. So we moved on. But what was the alternative? I had to figure it out. I couldn't think I wasn't the person for the job. I knew I had to figure it out. And we did, and that's what you had to do. And here we get to the nature of what makes an edge an edge. The poet Patrick Overton wrote, "When you walk to the edge of all the light you have, and you take that first step into the darkness of the unknown, you must believe that one of two things will happen. There will be something solid for you to stand upon, or you will be taught to fly." I believe it because I lived it. Each time I've come to the edge, I've taken that running start and landed on something solid and found the means to fly. It still phases me, but now I know what's waiting for me, and I know the difference between an edge and a cliff, and the edges don't really scare me anymore. So I was staring at the edge again during my first big IT leadership meeting at Hard Rock. You hear people talk about fake it till you make it, never let them see you sweat. And if I'm being honest, I was completely intimidated. Here I was in a room with ex-Disney IT people and me. My pedigree simply didn't match up. Now maybe it had to do with inexperience and not knowing any better. But I'd prefer to think it was my generally bold nature, but the fact that I was willing to go the extra mile and do whatever it took, and no matter how hard the work was, where did that land me? Well, approximately 18 months later, I was in charge of IT. These were all very highly qualified, highly credentialed people, and I outlasted them. Because while they were so afraid to fall off the cliff, I was willing to go to the edge. I stepped into meetings where I was clearly not the most capable person there, but I was comfortable with the edge. I stepped in and I acted like I'd been there, and I acted like I deserved to be there. It's all about being comfortable with the edge. And if you can't be comfortable with the edge, if you can't be comfortable going to the edge, trust me, the cliff will come for you. And would you rather deal with that on the cliff's terms or on your own terms? Would you rather be falling off that cliff or the last person standing in the room? So fast forward through my career at both Abercrombie Fitch and now Burger King, both similar experiences and outcomes on much larger scales. Each opportunity was another leap of faith, with more tests of my strength, determination, and overall will to succeed. And most importantly, a trust in myself that no edge I faced would result in a cliff. Now you'll have to take my word for it, because some of you, I doubt, have hit or come up to that edge yet. But when you do, when the time comes, when you're staring out over the abyss and contemplating retreat, take that running leap and think back to this talk. And remember my advice. Through the fear, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, the many, many sleepless nights, and everything else the edge brings with it, try to remember to enjoy it. It's not like it's a cliff or anything. Thank you. Have a good night.